everybody, Polangelo here, and welcome to another amazing video about how the Big A Family Social Program works on the inside. So this video is specifically made for the members of the program. If you are not a member yet, please come to the Big A Family Social Program website and join us. To do that, visit bigafamily.com. Those of you who are members of the program, thank you so much for being part of this extraordinary adventure. This program is the future of the gay community. The ideas that we bring into the open from the program or inside the program are brand new ideas, are the ideas that help us recreate what we have lost in today's culture. And that's why it is so important for us to talk about these subjects and to take our interactions, our communities, and our relationships a lot more seriously than in the past. Why? Because the culture out there no longer provides us with the incentives, with the motivation to go to the next step with each other. So we have to generate it from the inside and bring it out into the community. And so when we, in a moment, are going to be talking about the introduction process inside the Big A Family Social Program, especially what to do after you've received the first 3 interactions or after you've completed your first 3 calls, that's where we're going to talk about this even more. So in a moment, I have a presentation that I put together for you that will help you understand what is the next step after the 3 calls. And in that video, we're going to take the concept of relatedness, the concept of relationships to a level that you may not have seen before. I'm going to teach you some of my best ideas about how to connect to someone, how to pay attention to what's going on when 2 human beings connect, especially when 2 gay men connect. I think you're going to love it. I'm really excited to share this with you because I know that together we can make a difference in our lives, in the lives of our community here at the Big A Family Social Program, and most importantly, we can participate in an authentic process of building relationships from scratch, a process that is authentic, that is built on reason, that is built on innovation, that is also built on extraordinary sense of adventure, the kind of adventure that you always wanted to create with your friends, with your lovers, with your social life. And so here at the Big A Family Social Program, we are pioneering new approaches to how to connect for life, how to establish the kind of connection that takes you into the place of intimacy you always wanted to go with people. So I'm really excited to show you this presentation. It's coming up in a moment. Thank you so much for being here, and let's begin the transformation. So let's go with the presentation, and I'll see you on the other side. Hey everybody, this is Polangelo here, and welcome to this presentation to show you how to take your introductions in the Big A Family Social Program to the next level. What should you do after you've received your introductions, after you've had your first 3 calls? How do you look at the next steps? What's the best way to understand how to create relationships and connections that last a lifetime? That's what we're going to talk about today, right here in this presentation. First, I'm going to give you some education about what relationships are and how to look at them and how to adjust our understanding of relationships to the context today. Today is different than 10 or 20 years ago. Society today is different. We are witnessing a breakdown of cultural norms that held society together. So when we look at the details of interactions, the details of how the Big A Family Social Program helps you, I'd like for you to be cautious. I'd like for you to be alerted, to recognize that this level of detail is necessary, that this level of detail is something that used to be provided by the culture, used to be provided by all the interactions that were healthy. Today, all of that is going away. So that's the sad news. Yes, it's all going away. But the good news is that we know how to bring it back. But it won't be brought back in the culture out there. It usually, or in most cases, it will be brought back in the private programs where people like me who study the subject matter of love, relationships for a living, they recreate what was present in the culture out there, and we emphasize it, we grow it, we beautify it here in this program. So because this program is a professional program, you're going to see things here differently than what you see out there with the groups that you interact with. Here, I'm using science, I'm using research, I'm using sophistication to help all of us connect faster, easier, and for as long as possible. Of course, the standard that we're aiming for is the highest standard: how to create relationships for life, how to create relationships that last forever. The concept of together forever, that's the standard that we're aiming for. And so to do that, we want to be knowledgeable. We want to be curious about how it all happens. And the detail level will be a little bit deeper than you are accustomed to, because the world out there has changed, and we need to bring awareness to what used to work and make it happen here in the program for you. So in a moment, I'm going to explain to you what these graphs mean. I'm going to teach you very powerful 3 concepts about how to create a beautiful connection with someone. And then we're going to go into very advanced concepts. So I'm going to teach you super advanced concepts I'm using with Frank right now in my relationship that has helped me overcome so many challenges, so many places of friction with sex, with trust, betrayals, cheating, monogamy issues, open relationship. All of that was something I could handle. I could understand it. I could survive it with Frank because I had some of these deeper concepts understood and practiced. When you understand these ideas, I guarantee you, your love life, your relationships will go into stratosphere, because the concepts I'm going to teach you are concepts that set you free from the ego. They set you free from analysis paralysis. They set you free from judgments of other gay men. They basically set you free from the trappings and the prison of the culture today. Our cultures, our groups out there have imprisoned us in terms of our choices for lovers, in terms of how we should interact with each other. And so we need to break through all of that, open it up, and find a different way of interacting. That's right, a different way of interacting, different language, different attitudes, different timeline. We're going to slow things down. And most importantly, not walking away. Not walking away from each other at all, ever. Instead, reconstituting the relationship, realigning it. If you don't want to spend a lot of time with someone, realign it into once a month, once every 3 months, once every 6 months, once every year. But we don't want to be walking away from people for any reason at all. And there's a reason why I'm sharing this with you. In a moment, I'm going to show you, I'm going to share with you about an experiment that will explain to you why you don't want to walk away from anyone, regardless of how you feel. And the only assumption here that we have is that we assume that we're already in a healthy, in a managed and professionally contained social space. And when we are there, you don't want to give yourself permission to walk away, because you are already in a place where relationships are created. So compare this with other places where nobody cares, nobody manages. Yeah, walking away is probably the right thing to do. But here, because we work inside of the walls of a professionally managed social program, walking away from anyone is a mistake. When you walk away from someone and just break down the communication, just cease to connect, cease to interact, we want to work on that. And we need to realign that interaction so that something can be built from that. So I'm bringing here a certain level of excellency. I want to challenge you. I'm definitely going to push you. I'm going to push you hard, because I know you can have an amazing relationship, but you are sometimes lazy. You're sometimes lazy, yes. And so in this program, we're going to be pushing you into the center of that space where relationships are always happening. Sometimes it will be easy. Sometimes It will be difficult, but when you are here with me, I can guarantee you one thing. I'll always believe in you. I'll always count on you to do the right thing. I'll always push you into the direction where relationships thrive, where all of us as a community inside of the Big A Family Social Program thrive together. We're here together in addition to you doing your own independent work on you and your relationships. And all the things we're learning together in all of this beauty, all this container that we call the Big A Family Social Program is ours to maintain, ours to protect, and to beautify. And so everything I'm going to be teaching you is designed for that. And something I want to share with you now is that I want you to be here with us forever. I do. So this starts as a one-year program, but I want you to be with us forever. We have big plans for the program, and the program is growing. And I know that we can build something even more magical than what you came here for. We can build a real community. And so all of these things are wrapped around this journey of extraordinary transformation and transcendence. We can transform ourselves. We can transcend our problems with creativity and innovation. Every single thing can be solved. Every single problem can be solved. Every single relationship issue can be solved. Everything can be solved when we're together. Everything becomes a problem when we separate, when we walk away from each other. So lots of things to talk about, lots of things to think about. So let's go to the next step and let me share with you what all of this means. So with the first graph here, it simply means that your relationship is a third thing that happens when you are connecting to another person. So here's person A, here's person B. A relationship is a third entity. It's a third entity. A relationship does not happen inside of the other person. A relationship does not happen inside of you. You are feeling things, he is feeling things, but the relationship is the space in between you. It's this unconscious collective, but as opposed to a collective of groups of people, hundreds of people, which is where the concept of conscious or unconscious collective was born, we're talking about this unconscious collective, meaning-making, subjective processes that together create this space called relationship. And to the degree that you are involved in a specific way, that third thing called relationships, that you can even say this cloud, this abstract cloud, that's your relationship, is going to be stronger and stronger and stronger. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. And so here you see that in this graph of this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with another human person, we overlay a structure on top of that. And that's your relationship. That's your relationship. We put a certain structure on top of this communication, and we give this a real presence. So something that was very abstract all of a sudden becomes a real thing. You can relate to it. You can interact with it. If this sounds kind of challenging for you to understand right now, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Basically, to help you understand this, look at relationships from the perspective of energy and consciousness. Remove yourself from your body. Remove yourself from having to see his body. And just notice what happens when two human beings interact. All of a sudden, there is some kind of glue that's building up in each person. There is some kind of third activity going on in their brains. We think about the other person. We connect our thoughts to future events that relate to another person. And in this process of meaning making that relates to another person, in the process of bringing in our subjective content, aligning it with the feedback of the other person in a certain way, that is what creates that back and forth interaction and then creates a connection. In situation when we don't have a structure that's placed kind of like stamped on top of this abstract concept of connection, if we don't have that structure, you will not feel connected. You will not feel the energy from the other person. You will not feel like this is chemistry. A lot of people use the word chemistry. Chemistry is when you unconsciously lay out a structure on top of the communication and interaction, out of that structure comes a sensation of safety, a sensation of letting go of having to be on a watch, letting go of having to be protective of yourself. Your boundaries drop because you feel safe, because there's a structure that's overlaid on top of an interaction. So this is a good way to visualize what needs to happen on a more kind of abstract kind of level. Your job in the program is to learn how to enter into structure, how to stay in the structure, and how to reinforce the structure, especially at the beginning, if you want these relationships to thrive for the rest of your life. To the degree that you bring your excellence to these three concepts: structure of the communication and the interaction, energy of the interaction. So right now, between me and you, I can be kind of boring here. I can look like this and just notice that's not too exciting, but hey, check this out here. Hey, I'm really happy to be here with you. So do you see the difference? So you want to bring in energy and you want to bring in good communication into the interaction. And that's how we make an interaction like this, like that. There's a structure. There's something that's actually going on that has a purpose, that has intention, that has a reason. So the introduction process in the program gives you a certain kind of framework. The first 3 calls is the framework, and the guide teaches you how to do it. And obviously there are different levels of adherence to that. And when I created when I created the formula, when I created that guide, my idea was just to give you a certain pattern to follow. If you follow that pattern, you will feel the connection. If you don't follow the pattern, then you will not feel the connection. You will not see that the introductions are working for you. And so to the degree that you follow the guide, to the degree that you level up your use of the guide, is to the degree that you actually create a connection. Is to the degree that you create something magical. And I do believe that it will be challenging. It will be challenging because we come into this program from the outside world where chaos happens. It's basically anarchy. Nobody cares and nobody adheres to any standards of ethics. Nobody adheres to any standards, any protocols for emotional connections. So we all come into this program from the outside. And so it is fair to say that for some of you, it may be more challenging than for others. But it's okay because we need to find the baseline. And so your level of involvement and your level of following the structure will tell us the baseline. How comfortable are you with structuring the interactions? How comfortable are you with the statement of purpose? During the first 3 calls, a leader is supposed to be using the statement of purpose. Are you doing it? Are you afraid to do it? And so sometimes when you do it, you should be able to see and feel something different than when you don't do it. And so with each introduction, with each practice of this process, eventually where we want to take you is into the excellency level of the structure, energy, and communication. So to answer the question, do you continue or not? That question will be answered for you. You can answer this for yourself. If you haven't exhibited excellence in terms of structure, energy, or communication, you continue until you bring that. And then you share the photo. This is my recommended structure or my recommended pathway of doing it. Then you share the photo, and then you have a different kinds of interaction. You have a different kinds of experience of each other. When you bring the structure, when you bring good energy, when you bring good communication, and at the time when you can't see someone, right? So remember, in the program for the first 3 interactions, you don't even see the person. So when you do all of this, you should feel magic. Magic. I really mean like magic. You go and you see, magicians create, in the movies. So yes, magic, real magic. You can have it happen when you bring excellency to structure, energy, and communication. So what is the challenge here? The challenge here is that people are afraid to assert the structure. They're afraid to ask the person to follow the structure. And because of that, we don't actually have that deep enough exchange that creates the connection. So your job in the program is to assert the structure just as it's described. And on top of that, you can experiment. But if you don't follow the structure, it will be very difficult to create a connection. And so it really doesn't matter whether you continue or not with the person. If you can't follow the structure, it actually doesn't make sense to even continue. So once you finish the first 3 calls, you do continue until you have, on a scale of 0 to 10, at least an 8 in each of these areas. So the challenge with the structure is no shows, people canceling. Let me share with you something, guys. If you cancel on someone, it's like that introduction is wasted. If you cancel even once, and even if you cancel with 24-hour ahead of the conversation notice. So even if you have a notice and you cancel, it's not good. So in terms of following the structure, you don't want to cancel on people, because when you cancel, this interaction here and the structure that's supposed to be placed on top of interaction is not there. People feel unsafe, people feel disrespected, and even if you apologize, even if you reschedule, the harm has been done. Remember, we're talking about the very first 3 interactions with someone you've never met before. You can reschedule things later down the road because the foundation has been built. But if you don't build the foundation with excellency, with full intent and full presence, then nothing good will happen later down the road. And here, it's a very small amount of effort to put into it. Only 3 phone calls, follow the structure, and you'll see magic happening. I'd like to share a little bit more about the challenges that I've been observing in terms of communication. So we have the 3 parts of a powerful relationship creation process: structure, energy, and communication. In terms of communication, I see that men are sending one-liners via text, email, or in other forms. So basically, when you communicate with another person, you want to start out with a greeting, you want to end with a goodbye, and in the middle is your content. Do not send one-liners because they're convenient. They are disrespectful every time. Remember, when you come across someone, you want to greet them first. When you walk away from someone, you want to say goodbye before you walk away. And so in emails, where you basically just cough up your ideas in a one-liner without a greeting, without a goodbye, and sometimes even a postscript with some kind of surprise quote or something really nice and caring, if you don't do any of that, you can't connect to people. You can't connect. So I'd like for you to really force yourself to always put in a greeting, content, and then goodbyes. Because I really wanted all of you guys to practice this. Also, in terms of communication, you want to practice the kind of communication that is detailed, the kind of communication that is emotionally potent. Now, obviously, I'm not going to teach you about communication here, but I want to emphasize that communication is an important element of making connections. Writing skills, using spell checking for errors so that your writing is not sloppy. Some people say, oh, I don't want to write. You won't have a relationship then. You won't have a relationship. We need to write to each other, whether this is letters, whether this is emails, and then through that writing, we demonstrate our intention to respect the person, our intention to connect to the person. So let's not forget that communication is not important. Communication is very important. In fact, it's one of the most important things in all relationships. So if you feel like you don't have a lot of practice with good communication, or if you feel like people are walking away from you, maybe it's because of communication issues. Maybe because it's because of communication issues. So we want to bring excellency to these 3 spaces, these 3 places here. And then once you have brought that level, that higher level of standard, then we have something to work with here now. Now, for the first time, we have something to work with. You have clay that you have that you can build things from. And whether you continue or not, now we can have a real conversation about, okay, do you want to continue with this person or not after fulfilling these requirements? And the answer will be, if you feel something, you continue. If you don't feel anything, you don't continue. There's no need to continue. So that's the answer to the question. But when you do this properly, when you bring a higher level of standards to that, you will feel something. And then it's going to be a question of how do you align that person? Is it going to be a best friend? Is it going to be an activity partner? Is it going to be a lover, a date, or a friend? So that remains to be seen after you bring excellency to your structure, energy, communication, and you just simply repeat the 3 calls every single time. And with each round of the repetition of the 3 calls, you increase your level of commitment to these 3 parts. You increase your level of commitment to being there. And that's how you create the relationship you always wanted. Yes, it will require a lot of effort. There's no such thing as something for nothing. If you want something, you got to give something. Something for something. You give, you receive. Yes, it will be taking your time. Yes, this will require effort. But remember, this is a productive effort. This is a productive activity. You're already in a program that has filtered out all the game players. Remember that. You are already in a program that has filtered out all the game players. So when you do this, you're doing it with people that are staying here with us. So this becomes a productive activity. Nobody's going anywhere. We are all here. And because the program is bound to a never-ending innovation, never-ending growth, we know that people will stay here. So there's no need to worry that people are going to disappear. There's no need to worry that the good people are going to walk away or disappear because you made a mistake here or here or here. It doesn't matter. What matters is your persistence. What matters is your involvement. What matters is your commitment and intention to master structure, energy, and communication, following the program's guidelines. On top of that, innovating in your own fashion. And that is, my friends, how you build these relationships that last a lifetime. Let's talk about these 3 more advanced concepts. One of them is holding space. This connects to this level or this way of visualizing relationships. A relationship is this third entity, and you want to give it space. You want to hold space for that. When you have a conflict, when you get triggered, when someone offends you, when someone lies to you, yes, even when someone lies to you, you don't want to walk away. You want to put in your commitment into holding space. You hold the space, you're curious. What is really happening here? You want to know the full story. You want to know the full narrative. You want to know what was going on over there, what is happening. And this is not just to solve a conflict. This is not just to solve some kind of problem. This is in general. You hold space. You don't give yourself permission to walk away unless there's violence, unless there's abuse, unless there's something really serious like theft going on. If there is no such thing like that going on, you hold the space no matter what. No matter what. And then what that allows you to do is survive very difficult situations in relationships. So I can share with you story after story after story with Frank and I. Sometimes a high level irrationality comes into relationships. Such level of irrationality where people hurt each other. They yell at each other. They make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And so in those moments when you're catching yourself, something unusual is happening, something risky is happening with the relationship, you immediately hold the space. You say, okay, I'm going to stand back. I'm not walking away. I'm standing back. I'm holding the space. I'm not walking away because that's silly. I am not also getting involved because there's too much happening. I'm holding space. I want to see what's going on. So holding space is very important in your ability to observe more complicated situations inside relationships. Don't interact. Don't react. Don't even respond. Become an observer. Hold the space. Oftentimes, holding space is important when someone cries. I remember when Frank, one time, he was crying a long time ago, and I learned about the concept of holding space. He was pouring
tears were pouring out of his eyes. And I just stood there. He was sitting in an armchair. I went down on my knees and I went in front of him and I hugged him. He was sobbing and I said nothing. I basically just sat there with him. I did nothing. I held space for his process. His psychological something was happening. It was outside of my control and I was not supposed to intervene. I was supposed to detach, observe, hold space. It's an advanced concept in sustaining complexity in relationships. And I believe you will be facing complexity one way or another if you want to go deep, and that's what it's going to hold you together. You hold the space. This is similar to abandoning form, but abandoning form is more radical. It's even more difficult. Abandoning form, it simply means that if you were to look at me right now, you are taking the flesh away from this. You basically imagine me as a beacon of light. So imagine there's light in the center of my chest. That is this like oval space, oval something, light emits out of it. I don't have flesh. You can't see my face. You can't see my arms. You simply have defleshed my being, so to say, and I become this ether, this formless beacon of light or whatever it is, something that doesn't have form. And that way, when we do that, we're able to detach from a lot of the human element that often intercepts our ability to connect or interact with other people. So sometimes when Frank and we have a really nasty fight, I immediately abandon form and I look at him, he's a beacon of light, and immediately I know what to do. Because when you abandon form, you look at a man in front of you, he's triggering you, you feel uncomfortable, you feel you want to walk away, you feel you want to hurt him, something really strange is happening, boom, you abandon form. You can abandon form for yourself. You can imagine you are a beacon of light, he is a beacon of light, you deflash him, you desexualize it by abandoning form. All of a sudden you have clarity, you know immediately what to do because you operate on the level of being. When we talk about abandoning form, we are talking about a spiritual process. It's a deeper process. It's a more advanced process. It's basically mental gymnastics to be able to deflash a person, to be able to take the human element out of a being, remove it, and look at someone from a perspective of an ontological being level presence, a beacon of light. So that's something that will really help you overcome very, very challenging situations. Situations that do not lead to a logical conclusion, that do not lead to an answer. You don't need an answer. You basically abandon form for yourself, for the other person, and the answer comes in when everything comes back to normal. A lot of times in relationships, we enter into confusing spaces. Like really confusing spaces. And so these ideas here, the more advanced ideas, help you sustain in those confusing spaces. Holding space is one of them. Something irrational happens and you just there, you observe. Abandoning form is deeper, a little bit more advanced. You go even beyond that, you deflash the person. They become a beacon of light and you interact with the beacon of light, not with the cognition, not with the flesh of the person. And then finally, removing projections. When we are interacting with other people and when we get triggered, we are not supposed to walk away because these are our projections. So a statement I was thinking about earlier was the following. We scare ourselves from love. That's right. You scare yourself from love. When we talk about projections and connecting it to the statement, it means that your own projections placed onto another person trigger you in such a way that you walk away. But that projection has nothing to do with the other person. It simply is a mirror of something that is not worked out inside of you. Let me give you an example. Let's say I have a body image issue. Let's say that I have a belly and I feel very self-conscious about having a belly. And let's say I meet someone and I noticed that this person has a belly too. All of a sudden, I will be turned off by it because I hate my own belly, and then as opposed to hating my own belly, I hate the other person's belly. This is the projection, and now I am walking away from the other person without realizing that I have to become comfortable with my own body first to neutralize the projection. And then when I look at the other person, I don't judge them because they have a belly. I don't judge them for any reason because these projections have been neutralized. So removing projections is an advanced practice, especially when you're noticing that something about other people is triggering you. And that trigger leads to a judgment. Oh, he should be this way, or he didn't do this way, or he is such and such a way. What it really means is that we are that way, you are that way, projecting that onto another person as a way of seeing it. A projection is how you get to know yourself. The term projection is used to describe a negative situation, but the pattern is actually a positive pattern. Basically, as we interact with people through socialization, parts of us are reflected on other people. So for example, if you feel really successful, if you, let's say, made a lot of money on a certain month or in a certain day, you feel really successful, you see someone who is super successful, you are connected to it. You want to go to that person. You want to project your success onto the person, compliment him. By the virtue of complimenting him, you compliment yourself. The negative aspect of that is the projection, which means is that, let's say that you are insecure about money, you're insecure about some body part, you may be insecure about something, whatever it is in your life, you will most likely project it on another person to be able to resolve it. So the projection actually serves a function. What I'm here to share with you is you don't want to use a projection to walk away from someone. You want to use a projection to heal yourself, to make yourself more whole and complete. My common projection is that I used to dislike direct people because I used to have a negative disposition to my own kind of aggressive personality. I've always known I'm fire. I'm all fire. But at certain times I noticed that it was hurting me. I was hurting other people. I didn't like the fact that I was so aggressive. Then when I would look at other people that were aggressive themselves, I started disliking them. And then I caught myself. Oh, wait a second. I actually have a very negative disposition to my own personality. I got to fix that first. And then I look at everybody, aggressive or not, I have no response at all. I have no reaction to that at all. I can have a relationship with that person now. Before, I could not because projections were standing in the way. In fact, most of our judgments are, in essence, projections. They are coming from our own relationship to ourselves, usually negative. And by projecting it on another person, you can actually see that negativity and you can correct it. So I'd like for you next time that you see, I'd like for you to practice this. Next time that you feel like you're developing judgment towards another man in the program, it's a projection. It has nothing to do with the other man. We can't control other people. We can't force other people to behave in ways that are customized for our liking. And when they behave in their ways, we are supposed to be observing what's happening, not reacting to it. So I wanted to share with you that in the behavior of other people, nothing about that behavior should trigger us when we are wholesome and complete, right? Anybody's behavior should have no ability to negatively impact your behavior or your feeling about that person. If you feel that that's happening, it simply means there's something about us that's stirring, that's not processed. It's basically, in most cases, a projection. So by now, you should have clarity about what to do next with the people that you're meeting in the program. By now, you should understand some of the concepts I shared with you here, including this concept here, that a relationship is a third entity created out of the meanings, out of the assumptions, out of the responses that people give to events, to situations. Each event, each situation creates a certain experience of either stability or instability. Structure means stability. No structure, instability. You can't trust, you can't feel safe, you can't feel the chemistry in the absence of that structure. Then how do we maintain that structure? How do we maintain the connection? We bring excellency to staying on board with the structure, showing up when we're supposed to show up, and being there when we're supposed to be there. Then energy, bringing in energy and proper communication. And that's how we create a beautiful relationship. And the advanced concept I share with you today, holding space, abandoning form, and removing projections, will help you sustain very conflicting, very difficult, very yucky, kind of unusual situations with other men. This is very helpful because most of us have been damaged by the gay culture on some level. One way or another, we have been all affected. We don't live in a beautiful, healthy social environment. So all of us, to survive, we had to come up with our own survival strategies. And your survival strategies are different than mine. His survival strategies are different than yours. And somewhere in there, we have to connect. And that's why we have to have this level of detail of understanding so that we can connect. We can place a structure on top of the back and forth communication. And that structure takes us into the future. And so with this, I'd like to invite you to the continuation of the introduction process, the continuation of the round of the 3 calls. You basically extend the calls until another 3, for another 3 phone calls. So the first 3 calls, then you have another 3, until you have brought excellence into this level. You want to be persistent. If somewhere in there you're walking away, there's a game here. There's a game here. We want to fix that. So this ensures that you're succeeding in the program. And to give you a more deeper knowing about what to do next, there's a form below this video. You can use this form to get an evaluation, self-evaluation of how you did with structure, how you did with energy, how you did with communication. And you want to reach a level of 8 on a scale of 0 to 10 throughout the experience of connecting to other people. And if you've reached that level and then you don't feel anything, you don't continue with this person. But if you reach that level and you feel wonderful, which is what you will feel with the right person, you do continue. And that's when you share the photo, that's when the visitation is possible, and that's when the person becomes one of the 6 people that you're connecting with in the program. So thanks for watching. I'm looking forward to sharing with you more. Until we talk in the next video, as always, my friends, go out there, think big, stay present, and be a leader in your life today. Signing off, talk to you soon.